Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. We have brought some firewood baskets up to Matt here at Firewood Guy. You guys all know him. He's been in plenty of videos here in the past. We are going to have Matt do a little bit of kiln drying for us because I always worry about running out of firewood. That's the number one thing that anybody that makes and sells firewood has to consider is you can never have enough, you always run out.
Right.
And Matt has 3 or 4 kilns here and he makes thousands of cords of wood a year, pretty much all on demand, right?
Yeah, it's all in and out.
Yeah.
And on the road.
Like if you look around here, there's not, when you sell 1,000 cords of wood a year, you would think you'd have some big, massive pile of firewood sitting around here somewhere, and it doesn't exist because it's all into the kiln, out of the kiln, to the customer. But one thing that we're gonna do as part of this little kiln drying experiment here is I actually pulled across the scales on the way here to see how much my whole truck and trailer and payload combo here weighs. I think I weighed about 23,220 pounds, so less than the CDL limit of 26,000 pounds. There's 8 baskets here. 6 of them are the 275 gallon totes. 2 of them are the 330 gallon totes. And if you back out the weight of the trailer and the weight of the truck, I think the truck is like 7,500 and the trailer is 5,000. Rough math, I think I had about 10,700 pounds worth of payload on the trailer here. Divide that by 8, that's roughly somewhere in the ballpark of, I think I said 1,340 pounds per tote.
Yep.
So these ones are probably a little bit less than that because they're smaller. These bigger ones are probably a little bit more than that because they're bigger. But what we want to find out is, right now, I cut and split all of these baskets within the last 2 or 3 weeks, and Matt's going to put them in the kiln, and they're going to come out at probably what, 14-18% moisture content in a couple of days.
Well, if we dried like everybody else, like 35-40. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we shoot for 16 to 18. It'll probably be a little lower than that. There's not a whole lot of advantage depending on how much time is going to go by before you burn it to dry it much below that, because with our weather here, it'll reacclimate. It'll pick up humidity out of the air. So you're probably going to hover around that 16 to 18 once you've normalized.
Yeah. So anyway, once, within 2 or 3 days here, we're going to know how much weight we have lost out of these baskets, and we'll average that out per basket and figure out, each one of these baskets is 1/3 of a cord. How much weight does a basket of wood lose going from green, cut and split 2 weeks ago, to kiln dried and ready to burn? That's one thing I'm really interested in finding out. So one thing I will say, this trailer weighing about 5,000 pounds and having almost 11,000 pounds on here, I'm about 16,000 pounds. This was really the first exercise I've given the new F250. I actually got to hear the turbo whistle a little bit today.
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. This truck's only rated to tow about 16,000 pounds, but I certainly think it could handle more. It was
I honestly believe that if you can get the traction, it'll pull it.
Oh yeah.
Because I've had a lot of weight on mine, and that's the big challenge when you're pulling a steep grade. It's trying to keep the tires in contact with the pavement, even on a beautiful day like today.
Yeah, and even the diesel exhaust brake on this thing, you almost don't need brakes.
No.
When you're going down a steep grade and you tap the brake and the transmission kicks down into 3rd gear, hold on, because you'll go from 50 miles an hour to 35 on a steep grade towing 16,000 pounds. And
when I first started in the firewood business, I was towing a 16-foot equipment trailer behind a 1978 F250. And there was like no braking assist. There was just electronic trailer brakes. And when they first started rolling out with the pickups with the high capacity tow ratings, then 10,000 pounds behind a pickup was a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And I thought when they started coming out with 15, 16, 18, 20,000 pound tow ratings, I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's not safe. There's no way anybody can tow that. But it feels a whole lot safer, and is a whole lot safer than you think it would be.
This 16,000 pounds behind my F250 felt a whole lot safer than 10,000 pounds behind my F150.
Right. And you wouldn't think, visually looking at it, you're like, how much more truck is there really there? It fits almost in the same footprint.
Yeah.
But it does make a big difference.
So, all right, anyway, we're going to go ahead and get these unloaded, get them in the kiln. We'll show you guys the kiln, and then we will pick back up here in a couple days pull them back across the scales and see how much weight we lost.
You got it.
So we got the kiln all loaded up. I apologize if we got some background. The rest of Matt's business is here running. But Matt, you don't usually use IBC totes to load the kiln, right?
No, we don't. We use
the kiln
metal
baskets.
Nesting baskets. Yeah.
And Matt, you guys have seen, makes mulch. So he gets an abundance of these IBC totes with, that's what your mulch dye comes in, is those. So you have a pretty unlimited supply of them. And you still prefer to buy or make these because it's a lot less screwing around loading the kiln, right?
Well, yeah, loading, unloading, and then unloading the baskets too. You know, unloading the IBC tote. These are nice because you've got the fork pockets. You can chain them up to the loader.
They got a swing door that opens up and it dumps out. And
dump the wood right out.
Yeah.
Go right back to reusing them.
Now, we've done a video on Matt's kilns before. You have two kilns over here. And this is a new kiln,
yeah.
And this one is different than the other two. What's different about this one?
This one here is a gas kiln. The other two are fired by wood waste, which we pick up from the other parts of the business.
Yeah. What do you notice? What's the biggest difference in performance?
The gas kilns dry on a more consistent schedule because you're less prone to errors, having to restart the process, and the temperature is constant. So if you know anything about burning and heating with wood, the temperature varies as the fire gets started, rises, and then comes back down again.
You got those heat cycles.
Yeah, the kiln's going through that repeatedly. And depending on the fuel quality and air, you know, many factors, these are more consistent as far as your temperatures go.
All right, so like I said, I split these baskets probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, so they've air dried a little bit, but we're gonna go ahead and take a moisture reading on the outside, and then we'll split it open, see what it is on the inside, see how much moisture we lost in the first 2 to 3 weeks. Because usually, like when it comes to lumber or firewood or something, the recommendation is air dry it for a little bit, get that initial moisture out of there before you throw it in the kiln, right?
Right.
So let's see how much we've lost. I did store these inside the barn, so they've been in under a roof for 3 weeks.
22 on the outside. Getting almost 30.
26.
Like 26, yeah.
All right, so we were, what, 22 on the outside? So the outside is close to being ready to burn, but the inside we're still getting between 26 and 30% moisture on a piece of cherry. So yeah, that's where our starting figures is. Not the greenest wood I've ever seen in my life.
No, but that 2 or 3 weeks that it had stacked in totes outside with free airflow,
yeah,
makes a big difference, especially in nice drying weather. We haven't had a lot of rain.
Now, do you ever do that with your totes at all? Do you ever give it that 2 weeks to just burn off that initial moisture to reduce the time in the kiln?
Not frequently. We have experienced that. leaving it set like just over the weekend, like if we have loads ready to go and they sit till Monday morning, there is a difference in how long it takes to dry, just having that much time with the airflow over it, just to lose some of that moisture before it goes.
Probably shaves an hour or a couple hours off.
Hours off the time, yeah.
So it's probably not worth tying up your totes for 2 or 3 weeks to let it sit before it goes in the kiln, when you can already dry it so fast. You're talking a couple hours.
Days, yeah, yep.
Yeah. All right, well, I think Matt's gonna go ahead and shut the door here, and we will be back in a couple of days and check to see how much weight we've lost and what the moisture content is coming back out. Now, in terms of volume, between your wood waste kilns and this gas kiln, it's 6 cords no matter what, right? Your volume hasn't changed.
Yeah, they're both drying 6 cords at a time. The biggest difference between the waste wood kilns and the gas kiln is this button right here. Right now it's off. We just finished the last heat treat run. So it finishes that report. We hit on. It goes to heat up. It's going through its safety checks.
Yeah.
And then in about 2 minutes, it'll be rolling. And that's all you got to do.
Whereas with the wood waste kilns, you've got these big bin conveyors back here. You got to make sure they're always fully stocked. And
yeah, and those have their place. I mean, they fit in our operation really nice. I personally prefer the wood that's dried in the waste woods. I think the appearance is a little bit different. I'm not exactly sure why, but
yeah. You said you noticed that the color of the wood coming out of this is a little darker.
Yeah. And
the stuff out of the wood waste kilns looks a little fresher.
A little fresher looking. Still the same dryness. I don't know if it's the temperature, the time, the gas, I'm not really sure, but yeah, it does look a little bit different.
All right, so we are here 2 days later, but really it wasn't in the kiln for a full 2 days because I think we put these in at about 3 p.m. on Monday, and here we are Wednesday morning and you already had them pulled out and they're starting to cool down now.
Yeah.
You can still feel the heat in the wood a little bit. Like these are still warm to the touch, not hot or anything, but so Matt, how long were they in the kiln and at what temperature?
So they were Monday at 3 and the kiln finished last night at midnight.
Okay.
So what is that, day and a half? A little over a day and a half.
Yeah.
And
then it goes through a cool down cycle.
Goes through a cool down cycle before we pull the wood out. So it come out first thing this morning. And the kiln chamber is like 260, 265.
Which that surprised me because I always thought kilns, you know, you're 160, 180 degrees or something like that, but that's the temperature you're shooting to get the wood to is 160 to 180 degrees, right?
Correct. It's 160 on the inside, and you have to hold that for 75 minutes to meet
in order to be
heat treat standards.
USDA certified heat treat.
Whatever. And we'll hit that inside the kiln with the weather the way it is right now, this time of year. We'll hit that at 6 hours.
Yeah.
So we could have pulled this Monday night, and we would have met all the requirements to ship the wood anywhere in the country we want to.
Right.
But it wouldn't be dry.
There's a difference between heat treat and kiln dried.
Correct.
So because there is that difference between heat treated wood and actual thoroughly kiln dried wood, there is the possibility out there for somebody to heat treat wood, market it or advertise it as kiln dried, and then the customer doesn't have a really great burning experience because all they've done is killed the bugs in the inside, but the wood hasn't actually dried to a certain moisture content, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, one thing here that is blatantly obvious is, yes, the wood has definitely shrunk. These were completely filled up to the top rail here. This one definitely shrunk down quite a bit. That's probably a good 5 or 6 inches or so that shrunk down. All of these, there's less wood in here than when we started. That was another thing that we talked about too, is when you buy either kiln dried or seasoned wood, you're actually getting a more dense fuel than if you buy your wood green and then season it yourself. Because if you order a cord of green wood, you're really only getting probably 9/10 of a cord of ready to burn wood, because by the time you stack it and store it and wait for it, it's going to shrink.
Correct.
So that's just another thing to think about when you are buying and selling wood, is the volume loss. It's like when you buy seasoned or kiln dried wood, it's like buying pre-shrunk cotton t-shirts, you know?
Yeah. Maybe that's how we should brand kiln dried firewood.
Pre-shrunk?
Pre-shrunk.
Yeah. All right, so this stuff's all ready to go. I think we had a little bit of rain this morning, which is why Matt moved it into the hoop building here. So we're gonna go ahead and get this on the trailer now, and then we'll pull across the scales and see exactly how much water weight we lost. All right, so while one of Matt's guys is loading up the trailer here, I thought we would just BS for a minute. One of the things that I see the challenges with Kiln Dried is there is value in it, but conveying that value to the customer. Have you had to do a lot of educating to get them? Because obviously it costs you money to kiln dry the wood. You're not doing it for free. You're passing that cost along to the customer and probably making a little bit of margin on the kiln drying part of it. So have you had to do a lot of educating the customer to get them to see the value in the kiln dried?
It does cost more money. So then you have to, I don't try and convince the customer, just educate the customer about the reason for that difference and the value. And I will say I've only had maybe one customer, once they go kiln dried, go back to seasoned. Yeah.
That's one thing that because obviously I'm paying Matt to kiln dry this wood for me. That's one of the hurdles I find myself probably running into, is I'm gonna have to charge more for this wood to make the same amount of money from it. And I'm wondering, how am I going to sell that to the customer? And you know, so, but one thing that I have been looking into is kiln drying my own wood. The problem is a setup like yours, even just one of those kilns, is a significant investment. What does one of those run?
Yeah, for a kiln and a set of baskets, you need to be thinking about 6 figures.
Yeah, and that's, in order to justify that much expense or investment in the business, you need to be selling a lot of wood, probably in the neighborhood of 500 to 1,000 cords of wood, which I'm nowhere near there. I might do 100 cords of wood this year. And so one thing that I've been thinking about is, how can I redneck engineer a kiln, right? And most people first thought is they go solar.
Yeah.
And I've seen a handful of other YouTube channels that have built different variations of solar kilns out there, and every single one of them is disappointed with the results, because you can only fit 1 or 2 cords in them, and it takes, you know, 3 to 4 weeks. So you're looking at about a month to dry the wood. And that's like in the dead of summer. That's not even in the winter. In the winter, it's probably longer than that. So best case scenario, you're probably gonna be able to dry, let's say 2 cords a month. That's what, 24 cords a year?
Right.
So you're not gonna have the volume with it.
No, and the biggest drawback to the solar kiln is that the time of year that you're drying is going to be the best is the time of year that you really don't need to dry wood.
Yeah. And I may still play around with a solar kiln, because it's one of those things I probably just am gonna wanna learn it the hard way, but I like to tinker and experiment, and it'll make good content too. But I know going into it that I'm probably gonna be disappointed with the results, because everybody else that has tried it, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do anything special that they're not doing. So yeah, in this situation here, bringing up 2.5 cords to have Matt kiln dry it for me, I think this is probably the best situation. I think it's better to rent or lease kiln space than to invest the $100,000 or whatever it would be into a kiln setup, until you get to that breaking point where you can justify having a kiln. Are you, I mean, obviously you had a little bit of extra capacity here today. Do you have enough capacity if anybody else wanted to bring you wood and have them dry it for you?
The simple answer is no.
Yeah.
I only did this because I like you. You're a friend.
Makes a good video.
And yeah, and I've enjoyed participating in the channel. So, but I do have opportunities to wholesale kiln dried firewood from me to anyone in our regional market that might be interested.
Yeah. Now, when you say wholesale, you're talking semi-trailer
loads of wood, yeah.
Which we actually did a video on delivering 12 cords of wood and a semi-trailer over to roughly Cleveland, Ohio area.
Yeah, and we'll be throwing up some information on the website. I don't know if there's a whole lot of value. Pricing is one thing, but that's a case-by-case basis, because the trucking is a major component to that.
Right.
So we'll see. It is something we're launching for the fall. Just kind of want to throw it out there. And
yeah, so if any of you guys out there are interested in just being a reseller of firewood and not investing in any of the equipment, buy 12 cords of kiln dried off a mat and then sell it face cord by face cord, make a little bit of profit. I think that'd be a good business model too.
Yeah.
I've considered it. It'd be kind of a shame because I do have all the equipment, but
Yeah, it's a different way of doing it. That's what brings me back to I think the thing I said in a few videos ago, which was the guy about my first processor said, the cheapest way to buy your firewood is cut and split already.
yeah,
And I think I'm like, well, you know,
buy it from somebody else.
yeah. And then you're not, you know, you're not worried about, oh, I bought this kiln. What if firewood doesn't sell real hot this year? You know, your risk is one load.
Yeah.
Are you going to make the margins that you would if you did it all yourself? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You know, that all comes down to volume. But
Yeah. What kind of capacity do you foresee yourself having for semi-trailer loads of kiln dried wood? If you get somebody that's out there that actually becomes a pretty good distributor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying 2 to 4 semi-loads a week.
You could have going out the door.
Yeah, we could do that.
That's so impressive.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so he's got 3 kilns that can dry 6 cords at a time, and you're roughly what, 2 days?
Yeah.
So what does the math work out to there, and how many cords you can actually dry in a week?
It's like 30 per kiln.
So with 3 kilns, you're roughly 90 cords
a week. Yeah.
Cut, split, kiln dried, ready to go out the door.
Yeah.
None of us know what we're doing except for him. That's
No,
fucking
come
wild.
on. Hey, they say education costs money.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, I think we're all loaded up here. The moment I've been waiting for is pulling across the scales and seeing how much water weight we've lost. So,
yeah, I'm excited for that too.
Yeah. All right, so we made it back home, we pulled across the scales, and now we have our answer. Our original weigh-in was 23,220 pounds. Our reweigh after drying the wood was 21,600 pounds, meaning that we have a total weight loss of about 1,620 pounds. Now, there is a fuel issue that we have to talk about. I had about 9 less gallons of fuel in the truck at the reweigh, so we have to back that out of that number. Diesel weighs in the neighborhood of 7.1 pounds per gallon. Works out to about 60 pounds less that we had in fuel in the truck. So we didn't actually lose 1,620 pounds with the wood. We actually lost probably more realistically like 1,560 pounds worth of water out of the wood. Now, water weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 8.34 pounds per gallon. So if we take 1,560 and divide it by 8.34 pounds per gallon, that'll give us the total number of gallons that we lost from this wood, which works out to, I think, 187 gallons of water. Now, to give you a visual of just how much water that is, this tote right here, these smaller ones, these are a 275 gallon tote. So if you can picture, 187 is about 3/4 full. So that's about how much water we lost out of this 2.5 cords of wood sitting here behind me. Now, I want to take that a step further and convert that number to BTUs. Now, if you're not familiar, a British thermal unit is a unit of measure of heat, and what it measures is the amount of energy required to raise 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I had to do a bit of Googling to try to work my way into some of these calculations, but the latent heat of vaporization, which is a term I didn't know existed before today, and it is 970 BTUs to evaporate 1 pound of water. So we know how many pounds we have, we know what this latent heat of vaporization is, which is basically how many BTUs does it take to evaporate 1 pound of water, is 970. Take 970, multiply it by 1,560, and we come up with, it took roughly 1.5 million BTUs to evaporate 187 gallons of water out of this wood here. Now, water in wood is almost like negative BTUs. So while you could say that it took 1.5 million gallons to take this water out of the wood, I think you could also argue that this wood now has 1.5 million more BTUs stored inside of it. When you go to put this wood on the fire, you're not going to have any of that initial burn time boiling the water out of the wood, consuming the BTUs that's within the wood. Now let's take that one step further, because what is 1.5 million BTUs? Nobody has any idea, right? It's not something you can visualize. However, if you look up on the firewood BTU charts, we can kind of put that into a visual of how much firewood is that. So a cord of dry seasoned cherry has roughly 19.5 million BTUs in one cord. So if we extrapolate that out, 3 of those baskets equals 1 cord, right? So let's say that there's 19.5, let's say this is all cherry, there's 19.5 million BTUs in these 3 baskets if they were full to the tippy top. 1.5 million BTUs would be about a quarter of one of these baskets. I guess the whole point of this video, I've been trying to answer the question, how much more wood do you have to burn if it's green to get the same amount of heat as you do if you burn the wood when it's either seasoned or kiln dried? And in this instance, with these 8 baskets here, it works out to about a quarter basket, which those results kind of surprised me. I would have thought it would have been more than that, because we all have burned wet wood at some point in our life, and you know that it just doesn't put out hardly any heat at all. And I think part of the reason is because when we tested this moisture before we threw it in the kiln, we were getting between 26 and 30%. And I even said before it went in, said not the greenest wood I've ever seen before, because the poles that I'm getting, they've been mechanically harvested, they've been debarked, they've been sitting in a pile now for a couple of months. And you know, typically when you see green wood, it's 35–40% or something like that. So this was already somewhat dry before we threw it in the kiln. So if with this 8 baskets of 26 to 30% moisture content wood, we were saying that we needed to burn, you know, 1.5 million BTUs is about a quarter of a basket. I think you could easily double that if you had truly green wood, fresh cut logs. And you know, you'd be half of a basket with 2.5 cords of wood here that you would have to burn additional of green wood to get the same heat output as you would with kiln dried or seasoned wood. So I don't know. I know we really geeked out on the numbers in this one, but I thought it was interesting. It was actually, I was more or less just interested in the total water weight volume loss that we would get in this. How much was it going to shrink? How much weight would we lose? And Matt said, you know, you can convert that to BTUs, British thermal units, and get an idea of actual heat output that you get versus green. So I thought that was an interesting way to take this video. Hope you guys found it interesting. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to show you guys real quick. So I got all of these baskets off of the trailer and stacked inside the building here, and I ended up going through, taking one basket and re-topping off all of the ones, because like I said, they had shrunk a little bit. Just to give you an idea, there was 8 total baskets. We now are back up to 7 full, and we used almost a whole 330-gallon tote just to top off what had shrunk on what were full green baskets. And then in order to top them back off to get them full again after it was dried, it took almost a full 330-gallon IBC tote. There's how much is left.